Hi everyone, I'm Joey. This is a video for aspect syntax. Hopefully, after watch this video, you could have a basic understanding about aspect testing framework. So as we mentioned in the class about test-driven development. So in normal development process, we write code, then write tests. However, in TDD, we switch first two steps. We write field tests first, then we write code. After that, we try to refactor code. So this process is called red-green refactor. So this is one aspect test. And I will try to go through the test structure one by one. So the first is this describe line. Basically, this line is try to mention which method you are testing. So in this case, we are try to test get user list method. As you may notice that there's a pound sign in front of the method name. So the pound sign means this method is an instance method. So if we want to test a class method, we just use dot. The next line will be context. So basically this line describes the current condition you are testing. So this line is optional. However, if there's some if conditions in the method you want to test, it will be better and clear to add this line in your test cases. And the next line is try to mention the action of method under certain conditions. Basically, in this example, it's like you want to describe this get user list method, and when the current user is super admin, it means this method will fetch all users. So this part is the body of test cases. Basically, first you need to build the necessary dependencies and try to create objects. And then you need to write this line. Basically, it's expectation and try to check whether the return value of object match some value you expected. So let's go in detail about aspect syntax. So in test cases, sometimes you do not need to create all real objects. You can mock them. So this is a line of code. Basically, I highlight the keywords of aspect. So basically, here you could double an instructor. So basically, there's a real class named instructor. So you could double it. Basically, double means you are create a dummy object without attributes. So let instructor, this line means this line will create a variable named instructor. Actually, you could access this variable in your testing code. And what this variable means is a dummy object without any attributes. So you could also build or create instructor. However, instructor here is different from instructor here. And these two instructor is actually we use a Rails gem called factory girl. Actually, we already predefined several objects, several structures. You can create them. So as you can see, we already have factories.rb files. We already predefined a lot of these objects. You can create them. It's like, so for here, for instructor, you could build or create this instructor object. So instead of creating a dummy object without attributes, you could build or create instructor factory, and it has all these objects. So you will create kind of a more real instructor instead of just a dummy object. And the difference between build and create is like when you build an object, build a factory, you create, and when you build an object, you just store the object in the memory. When you create it, you just store it in the database. So basically, create will be a little bit slower than build. The database I mean here is a test database. So you could also stop behaviors. We already saw this line in the class. It's like we could allow an object to receive methods with some arguments and try to return the value we want. So there's one more powerful method called named receive message chain. Basically, we could call more than one method and try to return values we want. So there's a note here. It says that some Ruby methods do not need to do stub. It's like if we want to test this method, what this method means is it fetches all students enrolled in this course and try to check whether I enrolled in this course or not. So for tests for stub behaviors, you could write the line of code like you could allow course to receive these two methods and the first method with no argument. So the second method has my name as argument and try to return false. It means I did not enroll in this course. And you could also do like that. You instead of stub a message chain, you just receive the first method and try to return an array. So basically, I prefer the second one. It is because include this method is a Ruby's method, so we do not need to mock Ruby's method, and we can ask Ruby Rails to run their building method. And also, if some other place, we also use this course.students code, we could reuse this stub testing code, right? That's convenient. So I will briefly introduce the difference between unit test and integration test. So for unit test, you will only need to consider the current method. And in Rails, most unit tests are work on the method in model file. And for integration test, you need to consider not only the current method and all other methods called by this method. And basically, for integration test, it will work on the methods in controller. And here are the tips. So you could, you could handle these duplicated code with this line, and before each or before all. Basically, you could extract duplicated code in front use and put in before each or before all in front of multiple methods, and all these methods could access to this code. And actually, in Expertisia, there are some aspect test examples. So this file is the example of unit tests. You could access to it from GitHub. So, and you could also refer to it when you try to do your OSS project. And this is the file for integration tests. Yeah, you can also find it from GitHub. So, and then I will do a demo for unit test driven development and another one for integration test driven development. So before that, I recommend two online tutorials. The first one is Aspect official web, and it has several videos which are really useful. And the second one is also really useful and talk about which kind of code is good for aspect and which kind of code is not that good. Yeah, it will be helpful if you could go through it. And if you have any questions, you could post questions on Piazza and try to choose test first last folder. So you could also send me an email. Yeah, this is the email address. Okay, let's do some demo.